Shalom Habarim. Welcome guests, friends, visitors, family members to another video in the series of self-mastery and how to master your life and your destiny. Now look, we've got something here that is a custom-made calendar. This is like the calendar of a wise man of God, okay? Now you may notice that the format is, it's something a little smaller than letter size. And these pages here are custom made. We have to make this ourselves because there is no existing calendar that you can buy printed anywhere that includes the data necessary to have written down on a page, ideally a page for every day. You see, on this day, right, I have an overview of the day, the date, the short lunar units that result in the two high tides on that day and the two low tides on that day. And then, for example, 3 hours before a high tide, so it's a positive short lunar unit combined with the fact that it's a 3.5 day long lunar unit, right? In that time frame that we're in here. So then you have a double positive, and I know from 9:31 p.m. to 12:31 a.m., right, it's a double positive lunar unit where there's so an energetically masculine, life-giving energy that is it's programmed for a certain amount of time based on the lunar units, and this has an effect on Earth, human, and life activity in this area of the world. Okay, now this data here, right, these tides, these are from the nearest maritime port, okay? So wherever you may be operating legitimately and happily in life and wisely, hopefully, you just simply get a tide chart from the nearest maritime port where there's a tidometer and there's essentially a tide chart available. Then with that, you have data that shows you what the lunar units are. And that will be really good to have because it shows you what the life cycles are in the area of the world that you are operating in as they are visibly expressed systematically through God's handiwork, the heavens and the heavenly bodies, and how, for example, the moon is said to actually also play a part in causing tides, okay? So now what happens is, I'm going to quickly just go over this for a second. You've got the day, the date, then there's an overview of the annual life cycle period, right? So every day starting on your birthday, you've got 365 days divided into approximately 7 52-day segments. And that will be your annual life cycle periods. So the 7th one that I am in currently, like it goes for another couple of days, right? And in this annual life cycle period of 52 days approximately, there are certain things that are very good and perpetuous for you to accomplish in personal health and business life. Now, like I said, these are the short lunar units of the tides on that day. And then we have an overview of the long lunar unit that we're in of 3.5 days at that time. Now the next thing we would monitor or actually pay attention to for that day, for example, would be the daily periods of the cycles of life. Those are the shortest ones, right? And then come these 3-hour short lunar units, and then the 3.5 day long lunar units, right? Then the annual life cycle period of 52 days. Yet, first and foremostly, you've got the daily periods of the cycles of life, right? So on that Friday, you've got one in the AM from 6:51 to 10:17. It's a C period. Then from like 10:17 to 1:42, you've got a D period, right? Then you've got an E period from 5:08 to 8:34 p.m. And then from 8:34 to p.m. to midnight. Hey, hold on a second. So wait a minute. 6:51 to 10:17, we got a C period. 10:17 to 1:42, we got a D period. 1:42 to 5:08 p.m., you got an E period. 5:08 p.m. to 8:34, you got an F period. 8:34 to midnight, you've got a G period, and so on. And these are all 3 hours, 25 minutes in length here, right? There'll be 7 of those every day. Okay, now look, perhaps I should go into more detail why and, for what particular good reasons it's really good to make these maps like I'm making. So do you know what this is right here? I'll show you what this is, okay? Seriously, you should take this to heart and you should do the same. Take your time and be accurate. Double and triple check your work to make sure you're accurate. So do you realize what this actually is right here? Okay, I will tell you what this is, okay? So that what you're seeing right here on the table, right? This book here, with this page for this day, this is like essentially, so what this actually is it's like a map of how the universe works, because all of life is cyclical. You're looking at a map and even something like a schedule or a time of the cycles of life for that particular day, right? And I've got another one here. I've got one for Thursday, right? The day before I've got one made. I've got one made for Wednesday. So why would we why a custom calendar page for every day, ideally for every day? Because then you really know what's going on all day, both the negative units, the double negative ones, so both the double negative, then the negative, the neutral, the positive, and the double positives, right? Especially those lunar units, right? Why is this important? Why should we have this and even take the time to make this? Because this is like having a map in advance. And listen, we now enter into a particularly important area of the wisdom workshop here, where based on the amount of, let's say, legitimate, wise, and correctly timed effort you put into this, the more you get positive results in health and wealth and just really good things in life in good moderation. So the more work you put into self-mastery, the more and the higher and the greater your rewards are. So like, there are varying degrees, right? There are different levels. There's a huge amount of potential and variable amounts of potential. Like, your success level is directly based on the level of effort and, let's say, wise and correctly timed effort that you put into self-mastery, specifically in the form of what's done here, where you're making maps, cycles of life, right? And so, like, based on the amount of wise work you put into this navigation work, right? Mapping the cycles of life, at minimum, you should know what ones you're in right now as a first step to self-mastery, so you identify and become cognizant of and comprehend, let's say as much as possible, comprehend your actual real-time position within the cycles of life, and then also look ahead, right? So the more work you put into this wisely at the right times, the higher your health and wealth and overall victory and just overall very good life is, and that goes on as much as you keep that going on and on. Now, notice a certain thing, okay? For example, right now it's actually 6:52 p.m. on a Friday, 22nd of August, 2025. Okay. We're actually currently in a positive short lunar unit, so we have a high tide in like an hour from now. That's a positive short lunar unit. It's a daily period of F, and we have a 3.5 day positive long lunar unit that we're in right now till tomorrow evening at about 8:06 p.m., if I'm correct. Is that right? Yes. See? So that is a double positive lunar unit that we're in right now. So right now is a very good time to accomplish these types of things like writing, navigating, planning, wise calendar working, and writing and mapping, because there's certain amounts, very good amounts, actually basically maximum standard amounts of universal providence and support available for life right now, and even these activities in life because of the lunar units that we're in. So right now is the time to make this happen. That's why I'm making it happen now. And I even have the capacity to share this with you as a tutorial, right? So this thing here, right? Imagine this thing here, this book had 365 pages and you had a page every day. So it's like you get up in the AM, thank and praise him, say your prayers, right? And then wisely go to work and win, and gain and get all the good things, good moderation, thank God. And you've got a total overview of what can happen on this day. So I'm going to explain now why and how come this is so important. Pay close attention because this is very, very good info here. So, okay, this thing right here, this page for this day, right, for this Friday, essentially, this is like having a schedule and a systematic overview of how the universe will be working on that day. According to the standard programming, the way that the Creator, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, amen. In the beginning, wisdom was the fear of God, and wisdom is a principal thing, therefore get wisdom, and with all that getting, get understanding. And he made all of life perfectly orderly and geometrized, and everything progresses perfectly. If you can really see it, it actually is so. I've got more to say on that subject matter. Look at some of the other videos on the channel for more about that. Yet, right now, look, Friday, right? So, for example, I know that between 9:31 p.m. and 12:31 a.m. on that Friday, here's the way it is. It's double positive, energetically speaking. Okay. Same thing from 10:11 a.m. to 1:11 p.m. It's a double positive lunar unit there. Okay. So then, why is that important? What does that tell us? And what operational capability do we have because of that knowledge, right? So, for example, I know for a fact that, so generally everything like in Earth, human, and life activity, this area of the world, let's say, will be, generally it will be like positively increasing, okay? Positive increasing sort of a nature of it. Okay. So, we should compare this to other, hold on. So let's look at this. This is like building up, positive increase, life force energy increase, overall effect on Earth, human, and life activity, especially in this 3-hour time frame. Same thing again later, same thing again later, same thing again later. In between these times here, you have what are like neutral units. So from, let's say, 1:11 p.m. on Friday till 4 p.m., you've got a neutral unit. So a neutral lunar unit, what that is, it's quite simply that the energy, so the divine life force and energy that powers the universe is always somehow positively operational. Yet it goes through phases within this heavens and earth plane and earth, human, and life activity environment and existence that we have. It goes through phases that are visible by, and for example, identifiable by the lunar units. So, for example, between, let's say, 1:11 p.m. and 4 p.m., there will be like a neutral. And then later again, a double positive. Okay. So in that neutral space, more like a neutral energy. So what could happen in human language, right? Is it going to be like yes or no? It's going to be neutral. Whereas, for example, here, human interactions, right? Based on language being differentiated generally between negative, positive, male, female, right? It's like yes, yes here. The response will be yes. It will be increasing, life-giving, supporting whatever it is in Earth, human, and life activity. Same thing here. May I please? Yes, you may, right? Inasmuch as it's divinely permissible, commanded, and not forbidden, yeah? And wise. Whereas in the neutral, oh, may I apply for a permit to build a new house between 1:11 p.m. and 4 p.m.? It's going to be like, sort of going to be neutral. The response, like, it would probably be a yes, but it won't be as expedited and fast, and the results won't happen as fast as if it happened here, right? Okay, let's compare this with a different day. A long time ago, just for fun, right? Where we had some, real interesting looking at your own calendar from a year ago and seeing what went on. Aha. Okay. See this? I've got another page, and this may not be as the other one yet. Here's another page from a long time ago, like a year ago or so, where we had a 3.5-day negative long lunar unit, right? And then here, for example, on this day, on that Saturday or what it was, from 11:35 a.m. to like 2:35 a.m., it wasn't, oh, wait a minute. So if that was a negative and I had a negative there, this would have been a low tide. That was actually a neutral. Okay. So like here you can see, okay, this is what's going on between these time frames in this world, right? So you can see, I can see by the lunar units, I can see, okay, here's what will happen on that day. Well, okay, actually, to be more precise, not what will happen, how things are systematically programmed and what is possible. Okay, so we have like a schedule of the future, of how the future works and will be based on the programming of life. Yet what's more important is that we have the ability with divine free will to be wise and intelligently obedient to good divine guidance, right? And wisdom being our guide also. We have the ability to actually make and determine and cause certain good results to happen. So this is key. So first of all, we have to know how everything works. And that is like knowing what the future is capable of and what it's not capable of, generally speaking. Okay, and now listen, once again with this, there are extremely variable amounts of what is possible in this area. This is, again, the more wise investigation and studying, scientific experimenting, then analyzing the data from your scientific experiments, right? And then gaining more knowledge and wisdom and additional divine guidance and instruction and wisdom and so on. You gain even more insight to how everything actually works. Yet generally, life is cyclical, and the most important cycles are intelligible, comprehensible by us. Not an example of them here. What I'm saying is that I know how life and the universe is programmed to work on this day, for example. Now, what's actually equally as important as technically essentially knowing how the future will be, is the ability to make the future a certain way. Now, how is that? In the right daily periods that are good for particular things, in earth, human, and life activity, whether it's business life, health life, personal life, right? It's all described in the book. So you would set out to accomplish an objective in the right time, okay? The right daily period of 3 hours and 25 minutes on that day, during the right lunar units, where there's like a double positive supporting life-giving energy there. And guess what? That is going to work because the providential potential for it to work is maximum right there. And it's the right time of the day, the right daily period. And moreover, though, you have to make sure that you're also in the right annual life cycle period for these things. So what is, basically you've got 9 different cycles of life that you should monitor, preferably every 3 hours during the day, or at least once a day. That is basically, and they range from the daily periods of the cycles of life right? Daily periods, so like 7 a day, right? Then the short lunar units, that's the tides. Then the long lunar unit of 3.5 days. Then the annual life cycle period of 52 days that you're in. And then all six. So the actual, I'm going to write that up there too. So the overall period of human life, from 0 to 144 years, you've got segments of 7 years, and any one of us is in any one of those particular segments based on our age, when it's also automatically a time for certain things. Very perpetuous time. It is the time for things in your business life, health life, personal life, right? Knowing this then, and listen, if you monitor and you're watchful of the life cycles and you look at them, first of all, it explains to you why everything is how it is, why you are active with what you're active with, why you're interested in this and not interested in that, what you're doing in your personal health and career life and so on, right? And it shows you what you should. And if you do what you should, it's divinely supported. It equals maximum prosperity.